Happy Halloween and welcome to this week's call for the Winds of Spirit book discussion. I'm Bridget Hopkins, and this week we're discussing Chapter 11, Calibrating Your Inner Awakening Compass. So it's taking a moment to say hello to all who have joined us today and walking us into our sacred circle so that we can really bring our energies together collectively for those on the call and those that will be joining later. So if you are able and you're not driving, I encourage you to just take a moment to really slow down, sink in, and steady yourself. Either softening your gaze or closing your eyes, and really beginning to turn inwardly. First noticing the sounds and the sense of the environment that you're in. Slowing even more. Really beginning to feel the sensations on the top of your skin. Noticing where your clothing is touching you. How it feels for your body wherever you're sitting. Making any adjustments that may need to be made so that you're more comfortable and present. Sinking in a little more and beginning to notice your breath, your inner wind. Just really noticing how far it's traveling in your body. If there's any restriction, just invite that area to soften a little bit, allowing your breath to travel a little farther within. We'll do that for 2 more breaths. And using the power of our imagination, let's first imagine a very large open field. And as we begin to gather in this field, just down a pathway, a few steps is a beautiful rock enclosure. And we make our way inside and begin circling by walking underneath a stone archway. And as you enter into the right and make your way around to the left. And normally we have a really beautiful fire going in the center, but today I'm feeling drawn to water. So imagine that in the center of our circle is a very large bowl that's holding a deep well of water. And for those that are with us on the call and those joining in spirit and attending later, just allow all of us to come into the circle. And let's make our way a little closer to the bowl so that we're right along the edge of it. And on this day of Samhain, also known as Halloween, it's also a day for the ancestors, and the wind being one of our common ancestors, as well as the water and the earth and the fire. I invite each of us to place one of our hands into the water. Just feeling the coolness of it on your fingers and on the bottom and top of your hand. And as you remove your hand, just allow the water to either drip off of your fingertips, or if you'd like to just put a little dab on your cheek, over your heart space, maybe on the top of your head, and offer yourself a blessing. And ever so gently, just begin to open your eyes and become fully present to our call. Thank you all for being here. This week we'll have a discussion and a brief experience, because there's a really nice wind invocation a little later in this chapter that I'll share with everyone. So the very first thing that I wanted to share, I'll just share one of the passages, and then I'd love for you guys to unmute yourself when you're ready to jump in and share what stands out for you in this chapter, or anything else that's coming up or that you've been experiencing. Feel free to share that, as long as it's wind related. So on page 95, the paragraph states, to begin your inner journey, it is helpful to know where you are at all times. The fundamental organizing principles discussed in part 2 will show you how to adapt to change. I call these your inner awakening compass. Familiarizing yourself with the territories of the cardinal wind will help you determine your precise experiential location. And it made me think, what area in your life right now can immediately benefit from you knowing that precise location? Are you aware of it?
My mind, yeah, my mind is and emotions. I'm in the middle of kind of a decision, and I'm way overthinking it. And at the same time, there's calm, and I'm being kind of moved forward like a by the wind. So I highlighted that quote about that you just read, and what's jumped out at me was the word territories. And what I'm just thinking about is, like, what to do if you're in certain territories, like in your own landscape. If you're in a bad neighborhood, you look for protection, or where to go. You don't go alone, whatever. But knowing your territories, and I had the word territories, like being familiar with the territories, then you know how to move better in them. And so, calling up your practices that will help with the overthinking, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, for me, to answer your question, my mind.
So you're in the south, right?
The east, right?
East, yeah.
But I'm also, that affects your emotions as well. So
right.
Both.
Yeah. Southeast, east, south, whichever way it goes, back and forth. Thank you, Carrie. Would anyone else like to share?
For me, it's my voice and emotions. So I've recently begun working with Carrie, and I'm looking for my most nourishing voice for myself and for others. And it does get emotional.
Yeah.
I'm exploring that.
Yeah, I really, when you say that, it takes me to this experience I just had yesterday. And I was like, this is a quality that I really want more of in my life. And it's gentleness, like just really gentle touch, gentle voice. even gentle engagement, like the way that I'm approached, just an ounce more of mindfulness when we're around one another. Because I feel like I've been bumping into a lot of harsh edges lately, inside of myself. And so whenever someone greets me with gentleness, I'm like, I see that and I want more of it right now because it's been really harsh lately. So yeah, thank you, Deborah. I can really, I really feel that when you say it. Thank you. Anyone else like to share?
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Bridget and everyone. Nice outfit.
Thanks.
Very appropriate. I have been in a place of grieving, so I guess I'm in the West then, letting go of, again, things in the past. Not the first time, but there's been an anniversary that has brought up, or I guess a reunion that has brought up the grief. And then I've had a really hard fall physically with my chronic and acute stuff. So I'm in a place of needing to make a decision of how do I spend my time or the energy that I have. I returned to a volunteer job, which they work with me all the time, with taking time off and so on. But I just don't know if I can physically still do it. And what are my priorities, I guess? And what do I need to focus on? Because I tend to want to do everything, and which is funny, not really humorous though, because I physically have limited energy, but I still want to do everything. But I guess I'm looking at what is realistic and what am I supposed to be doing in a way. Well, I don't like supposed, but where do I want to put my energy?
Yeah, and the question that's really riding with alongside of you as I hear you saying that, Paula, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for being here today. I hear that it's been difficult, so I'm really thankful that you're here today. The question that I hear riding alongside of you is what renews you?
Yeah, and things actually do give me energy, well, to a point. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to sit with that. That's a good question. And I have been calling in the winds again, and I do feel when the winds, I feel it does give me some energy. But then sometimes it feels, maybe it's what's the word? Not directed.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you brought this up. Well, do you remember in the earlier chapters when we were talking about headwinds, crosswinds, tailwinds? The winds that invigorate us and really keep us going are the ones that are moving us in the direction of our alignment, right? So there's no resistance, there's nothing working against us. But when you have those experiences, you've also created more space, if you will, in your energy body. So sometimes when we're done with that experience, we have all of this extra space that can be really uncomfortable. And then there's the constriction part, or when we go up against a headwind, which feels like a lot of resistance, and then that starts to feel draining. And so it's looking for that happy medium in between the two, because we want to have momentum and we want to be heading in a direction. But recognizing that sometimes we can catch that wind and ride it too long, and that may not be as beneficial to us, or we are up against it, coming at us for too long, and then that depletes us. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Still a little confusing for me, but I'm trying to observe. But I think you're right. Especially with my illness, I do tend to, when I have a good day or have a tailwind, I guess, I tend to write it for all it's worth, in a sense.
Yeah.
And I felt like I felt this expansiveness and just, I felt really good. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling uneasy and unsettled.
And that's what I'm talking about when we have these expansive experiences and it really blows up our energy body. It feels good while the experience is happening, but once the dust settles, so to speak, and we have all this extra space, that is an unsettling feeling. So, just giving yourself the opportunity to kind of be your own gauge, if you will. Like, okay, this feels really good. And I know that if I go past this point, that I'm going to feel unsettled a little later, or I could feel unsettled later.
I guess I'm just really learning or trying to learn how to work with it or understand it. I mean,
sure. And how great that you keep trying.
I am. I just.
Hi, it's Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. I just switched off from my big screen to my phone screen,
okay,
so that I could talk, but so you won't see me. But was that Paula that was just speaking?
Yes.
Yes. What you were saying, Paula, was really resonating with me because I've been trying to make sense of things for a long time, I guess. But, sometimes I wonder if it's not so much about making sense of things as just being with it. I think as much as we can know where we're at, where we've come from, where we're going, I keep coming back to the idea of just being, just surrendering to the mystery, accepting what is, like being with what is. And although I know a lot of the ceremonies and techniques that we learn through the wind work and through other types of spiritual work, if you like I've done work with shamanism, and I've done work with like Reiki and all those. And my background is actually, I was raised as a Roman Catholic, although I don't practice that anymore. But still, all of my spiritual teachings seem to keep reminding me that it's great to be centered, to be grounded, to just be. And with that being, it seems that not so much understanding, I guess, but just a feeling of, I don't know, being in the right place at the right time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I spend a lot of time observing nature. And one of the things that I notice is that, when you look at a bud that's just about to burst, there's the sheath that's around it, but the sheath has to stretch so far before the bud can break through. And in our human form, like translating that to like the human experience, that tension point can create a lot of frustration and confusion. And that's why it's hard sometimes to surrender and allow the opening, because of all that tension that takes place right before something transpires. We never quite, and so just giving voice to that part of the experience, because I think that, the wind work, as you said, lots of different modalities, there are these moments where there's just this tension point that can bring on so much frustration and confusion. And I just wanted to bring that into the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, I think, to bring up. I just think of when you're feeling overwhelmed with a lot of feelings, or at least when I'm feeling overwhelmed with a lot of feelings, a lot of grief, a lot of all kinds of feelings. I tend to, I think sometimes I tend to avoid, right? So I avoid just being in the moment and listening to what that moment has to tell me, right? But when I do, and I think this is related to what we've been talking about, but when I do, I've been finding more and more that I need to get out in nature. I need to feel the wind on my skin. I need to.
Oh, you just muted yourself, dear.
And that's when I feel, of course, most connected. That's when I feel almost like the calm within the storm. Because there is a lot of chaos around us these days. We feel it. And especially if we are sensitive to and being open to those energies, right? So, I think for me, what the wind does is it does help me to ground. And the ceremony that's mentioned in this chapter, I really like, because it does make you focus, right? The whole ritual helps you to focus in that moment, and then and allow whichever guides are going to be drawn to you that day, or going to want to speak to you that day, you provided an opening for that conversation, right? By being focused and having that attention to be in that moment, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
And to like round out the point, part of being is also being really, really anchored. It can be difficult to be if you are not attached to your body, or if your body is not grounded between the earth and the sky. It can be really difficult because there's a lot of energy moving both ways. So that the awakening compass, that's why it's so important, because when we learn how to be in the midst of anything else that's going on around us, it's everything. Being destabilized, being disoriented, feeling alone, feeling adrift, those things kind of fall away. It's just a sense of a surety, if you will. I mean, she doesn't use that word in the book, but that's been my personal experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kim. On page 95, this kind of ties into what we were just talking about too. And I think it's interesting. I would love to hear what you guys are experiencing. But on page 95, your body is a dynamic system that contains all the guidance needed to navigate life, if only you are willing to listen. And awareness of your cycle allows you to respond and take action when the winds of grace open the door. Keep in mind that your body is a dynamic compass aligned to your personal magnetic north. And so I wanted to ask you guys, we bring the body, the awareness of our bodies and the necessity of being connected to our bodies into the conversation a lot. And I'm just wondering if, since, beginning the book study discussion from the chapter 1 to now, we're on chapter 11, have you begun to notice any differences within your physicality? Do you have a heightened awareness of your body? Have you noticed some old aches and pains have kind of dissipated? Have you picked anything new up? Where are you at with your bodies right now?
I'll jump in. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I was just thinking, I'm aware of a heightened awareness to the winds since we began, naturally. And that's very significant to me. But in terms of my body and any changes, I do pay attention to my body each day, but it's been kind of a roller coaster for a little while. So I'm going to have to think more about that. Has it changed in some way? I'm not really aware that it has.
Thank you.
I think what I've noticed since I began to focus more on studying this book and the whole idea of, the winds of spirit, this whole concept, I think I said at the beginning that, I felt very much, I've always loved the wind, and the stronger the better sometimes. But what I've noticed within my body, like I've been on a lifelong journey of, trying to be more aware of my body, make friends with my body, listen to my body, the whole bit, right? So, because living with a chronic illness, you do go through, the whole grieving cycle each time you have a flare up and that kind of thing. So, I've had to learn to listen to my body, but as well, I've had to learn how to make friends with it again and to trust it again, really, right? So it's what's interesting to me, though, is along with this journey, I seem to be like the universe does seem to be conspiring to deliver all these messages about making friends with my body, listening to my body, while I'm on this journey with the winds of spirit. So I think I'm in the right place at the right time. I think I'm doing the right thing at the right time. And I think it's definitely helping me to become better friends with my body again, or to become friends with my body again, actually, and to trust it again. I was just in an Ayurvedic class yesterday, and we were talking about the same thing. How do you become friends with your body, or especially if you're dealing with a lot of illness or a lot of dis-ease, right? So, but yeah. So I don't know, is it the spiritual kind of aspect of all these studies that's just kind of all working together, I guess? So, but like I say, the universe is definitely, got the wind at my back, making sure that I do progress in this direction anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you're here. Thank you.
If I might add in, because I've given it some thought about my body. But first, one of the things I learned in my shamanic work is that our first relation is ourselves, our body. So this makes sense, what you're saying, Kim, about making friends with your body. Makes very good sense to me. The other thing I was thinking about is that my senses are more heightened since I began this journey with all of you. And I feel more sensuous. My husband's always wondering why I'm kissing him so much and touching him so much. He says, "What's going on with you?" He just said that last night. So I thought, well, there's something. That's my body reacting. And the other thing that I've learned through working with the wind Carrie with my voice, my first question was, where do I go with my book that I've been writing? I been feeling lost, and I was asking for direction. Well, that's where I got the voice. to work on the voice, but also in my ceremonial work, I also discovered that my alignment was off. And so the trees have been really helping me with the realigning myself, so that what comes out of me, my thoughts, my voice can be thoughts about myself, thoughts about someone else, how I communicate with others, how I communicate with myself, how I communicate with nature. The voice is so much more than this verbal thing that's coming out of me right now. And so it's taking a look at all of those, but also being in alignment, not only with the earth, but in my, on my path. So something new came to me. I'll share it a little later, because I did this practice that's in this chapter. I did it earlier today, and got some information.
Oh, good.
That's good.
Good. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share what you're noticing, if there's been any changes with your physicality since beginning the wind work?
I am here.
Hi, Cheryl.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes. Yes.
Great difficulties with the phone, but got them worked out. That's why I'm late.
Well, thank you for joining.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Carrie or Paula, is there anything you'd like to throw in the pot?
Well, just back to what we started with earlier, like I talking about the expansiveness and extra space inside. And then I felt like I got out of alignment or something. But I mean, I don't know if you were going to say more about that, I don't even know how to ask the questions exactly.
That's okay. Well, we're going to do the wind invocation here in a few minutes. So that'll give you a chance to just kind of settle in and see what you're noticing. We're going to do the cardinal wind invocation. So I want you to just kind of hold that question. Am I out of alignment?
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing for me that I was thinking about with this chapter was there was a line that said, you know, when you're calm, you're in your center, awakening compass, you are where everything exists as a sacred potentiality. And I love that sacred potentiality. It's like, what do I want to create? What do I want to heal? What do I want to let go? It's like, we're in the moment. If we get into that moment, it does exist. We can move forward, and energetically learning to use the wind to move towards your goals, or to, like we talk about the voice, speak things into existence, or to breathe, just breathing. But that when we are in that calm, grounded state, if we're talking about working with the wind, that even when we're calm and still, there's still this, the wind's going to want to move. And so there's this dynamic energy that's building that we can, like, you know, tap into. And so I'm feeling that. Yesterday, I have this decision that I'm making. I can't really say right now, but I pulled a wind. It was the Fang Popo, which was a balance. And like, I read the chapter, and the chapter didn't really necessarily speak to what I'm thinking about. on my decision, but the word balance definitely did. And it made me think about, whatever I'm doing for this decision, it needs to be to bring me into balance, or it needs to be more balancing, and looking at the pros and cons. So I did that. And it is a balanced decision. So anyway, that sacred potentiality kind of made me think that like all of our decisions as like sacred points in time, and that dynamic energy that is there, that's just like waiting, gestating.
Gestating. Oh yeah, we have great experience with that. For those of you that are on the call, the Shift Network class is ramping up, and I definitely would encourage you all to join the class. Which Carrie and I are talking about right now is called one of the dynamics of creation, and gestation is one of those dynamics. So I just want to clue you in of what we're talking about. So that's in the mastery teaching. As I listen to you, Carrie, the thing that comes to mind, two things. I just had this wind epiphany as I was listening to you, like, oh my goodness. When I am in that calm place of like almost, I don't want to use the word doldrum, but it's almost like right after the breeze and all is well. Like it's just like ease, like the gust came and now there's just this like low pointers, like a low pressure. That is when I am most receptive. That's when I receive. I don't think of creating when I'm in that space. That's my receptive state. So that was thank you. My little, can I lift it up? Whoa. And then the other thing that you had said that I thought was really interesting is when you're talking about balance, right? We always think of balance in this like the tables of justice, right? This linear. But as you were talking about it, I kept seeing this diagonal. And I was like, where do you find balance in that trajectory?
Well, that just made me think of a graph, which I'm not inclined mathematically.
Me either, but I think that's the challenge.
When you said diagonally, I thought of a graph, and everything existing as sacred potentiality, like as points in time or whatever, but like there is a balance point. There is a point where it's too much, too little, and there is a point on the graph that is going to be in balance. That's all I got on that.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, I need more hay. Just give me a minute. Oh, jeez.
I've had what seems like a very imbalanced life lately. A lot of highs and some incredible lows. And it's kind of one of those up and downs like this. And if you graphed it over time, it would look like a sine wave. And then if you rotated that picture over time this way, then it would look like a circle going like this. So where I tend to try and get myself to is a place in the middle so that, in a sense, the wind, everything going on can roll around me. It's almost like I sit in the middle of a piece of tumbleweed and allow the wind to blow me along, and the tumbleweed rolls, and I just kind of ride with it.
Wow, you just took me on. I'm like, ooh, I just went to the park and I'm all spinny. Hi, Jim.
Good evening.
Welcome. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Well, and I remember saying this one time before that my personal goal is to always feel like the calm of any storm, and so all of those different imageries that you just brought in, you were the calm. You were going along with, like, allowing in each of those moments. So yeah, that was the sensation I had when you were talking.
There's two more sensations I find that go with that. There's the initial, oh my God, am I ever going to find the calm? It seems like all we do is spin and bounce and life's out of control. Yeah. And then at some point you find that calm and realize I'm okay. I think the other half of that now is to allow myself to go back into that spin, knowing that I'll come back out and still be okay
Mm-hmm.
and go play.
Yeah. And speaking of, I shared that video, I think last week, I'm not really sure. I think it was last week, of me laying down on the ground and waiting for the waves of the wind to come in. And that was the first time that I've ever had that inspiration to like, oh, I wonder if we can catch wind waves like we would ocean waves. And, it's very much like what you were just saying. There is that like ecstatic moment of, paddle, 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 paddle. I got to catch it, and then the wave comes and you ride the top and you come back into shore and then, and then paddle, 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 paddle. And you go, and it's the same thing. So I was really watching the wind and going through that whole scenario. And, it's an ally though. I mean, it's here to help us learn how to navigate that in a really fun way. Thank you for that wind gust. Like you blew in. Yeah.
Just blew in.
Yeah, you did. That's funny.
I made it home in time, but my wife wasn't feeling good, so I had to sit a minute and just work on healing her. Now I'm ready for here.
Good. I hope she feels better. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
So I'm going to ask this question because you said what you did. Does it have to be a wind gust? When I feel wind, sometimes I get a picture that it's not wind, that I feel it's more like a surge of energy that's blowing through and blowing by. Because I look at the wind, I look at the trees, and I'm like, everything's moving and I can feel the sensations, yet I see nothing.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would explore that a little bit more. I don't have an answer.
That's okay. I'm just asking the question. I was thinking about it as you said that. I'm like, I like to go out and orient myself to the wind, which is something external. Go out and sit in the forest and walk, do my hikes, and then just pause and breathe. But why couldn't I do that in a different way? Just feeling those waves of energy that blow through too. It's like we get enough stuff from the sun that blows by and other places that comes through, and see where that goes.
Yeah. We'll definitely report back.
Okay.
I think of that as energy, and I think of that with Reiki. That, and then you can think about the doldrums, right? We're not going to see or feel any wind, but one thing that I've had to try to like grapple since learning the wind work, for me, there is the natural wind and the visible wind, but there's inner wind, there's energetics that we're not going to see. It's subtle energy, and I do feel that. I mean, it doesn't have to be the visible, and there's wind happening on levels that before we feel it, before we sense it, sometimes it has to be actually really big before we're like, oh, it's breezy. So the stiller that we are, I know when I can feel that without having to see a leaf fall or a wind whipping. So I think that's inner winds, or just definitely perception, a level of perception that we can't really discount for sure.
I'm glad you sense it too, Carrie, because there's more going on.
Oh,
and I'm watching this and I'm feeling it. I'm like, there's just more here than what's here. I'm like, we got to take this to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm looking at your dog, and I'm like, dogs sense things like, the perception. I'm just looking at that dog. He's so cute.
He's so cute. Yeah.
This is Adele.
Hi, Adele. Aw, you kind of look like my Charlie. She's like, I'm out of here. Well, like to both of your points, today I was leaving a client and heading home, and I felt that wave. And I was like, whew, this is a lot coming through me. This is not of me. This is not for me. I intercepted it, so that point of where I was traveling and whatever was going by, I couldn't see it, but I sure felt it. And then, you know, I came home and I grounded back out, and, you know, then my body, like the whole somatic release, I cried, I shook, and then whew, it was gone. I'll never know what that was. I don't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't mine. So I definitely am aware that we're sensing and noticing these waves of very different things all the time. But I didn't need to identify it, you know, like I wasn't really that interested. I was just ready for it to go. It wasn't mine. So
I came home, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had changed a deployment at work. I do software development.
yeah.
We had changed something, deferred that off. I don't remember if I told the story or not, but I actually had to stop on the way home, just go sit in a park and like point my head into the wind and just breathe for a little bit while to let go. Because it was a large change. It was a big shift. It affected us, our project, but it also flowed out to the rest of the organization and then all the folks that we serve out there as well. So it was like a tremendous change, and I could just feel almost those winds of change, of shifting change, just kind of flow through me and just kind of reset at a different place.
Yeah.
I can still feel it now that I say it, but like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, she uses the term a lot in here that the body is a compass, but I also think the body is a barometer.
Like a weather station.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we sense very, very, very imperceivable things, but the body feels it. The mind, you know, not so much. So, yeah, great question. I like that you got the canoodling going. I'm like, I really want to ponder this one for a moment. Thank you. So does anyone else have anything that they want to share from chapter 11 before I give us the experience of the wind invocation? No? Okay. So on page 96, she outlines very beautifully the different ways to open up sacred space. But I just wanted to do that part for us. We're not going to go in and do all of the anchoring. I wanted us to have this different type of sacred space creation, because, you know, I take us to the beautiful circle that we all go to in the field, but this is just a different way. So, and based on what everyone shared in our circle, I think that we all know what sacred space is. For those of you not currently on the call, I'll just give a little bit of a description that Renee shares in here, because again, keeping with her teachings and not my teachings or other traditions, but the wind invocation to open up your sacred space. When you call upon the cardinal wind gods and goddesses, you are indicating to the spirits that you are ready, this is an important word, to participate in a contemplative ceremony. This invocation is an adaptation of the traditional ceremony of the Maori people of New Zealand and their language, Aotearoa, which prepares male initiates for a spiritual experience. She puts in parentheses, fishing trip, where they seek to win favor from the wind gods. Make your reading a joyous occasion. And she suggests laughing, you know, just create this. There you go. Thank you. I needed that because I can't fake laugh. It's very hard for me. So everyone, just go ahead and close your eyes for a moment as I begin to open up this space. And I want you to really use your compass. Be with your body. Be with this moment and feel it. I am calling on the divine winds, Eurus of the east, Notus from the south, Zephyrus of the west, and Boreas in the north. Come here today to help me navigate my life. The winds feed my life. The wind renews. The wind is prosperous. There are many sacred gifts in the wind. The wind reveals. The wind expands. The wind is generous. The wind lives within me. The wind offers a sweet melody. I share my gifts to the world by offering them to the wind. My body is borrowed from the earth, while my spirit flies free like the wind. I am grateful to the winds for this reading. Blessed be. Blessed be. So one of the things that she shares is on page 98. Gratitude provides wind power. And I thought about that a lot. And I thought, what does gratitude mean to you? Because I think we all have a different interpretation or a different relationship with gratitude. I would love to hear from the group. What does gratitude mean for you? And do you currently have a gratitude practice? Something that you do on a regular basis?
I am developing my gratitude practice. I love how it feels to feel gratitude. I don't know exactly how I can explain or put into words what it is that I experience when I feel it. I have to ponder that, I guess. But it does so totally change and shift my state of being, really. And you had asked earlier on if people had noticed any changes in their physicality, and I haven't even read the chapter again, but I've noticed in the past couple of days that I am chuckling and laughing like hysterically, like I've never done before, which is great. But it's like, what? Where is this coming from?
Oh, I love it. That is great.
It is great. Yeah, I couldn't even speak. I was laughing so hard. It was, I don't know. I like it. That's all I know. So that's all I know.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cheryl.
Sure.
Anyone else?
I have more than one gratitude practice. One that I use throughout the day or night, or doesn't matter where I'm at, is we've talked about pausing, looking for that gap or creating a pause. And I do it with my breath, and I observe nature, I observe whatever's around me, and I just give a very sincere thank you. So doing that many times in the day really helps me in my own attitude. And the other one that's significant for me that I was gifted, and I may have mentioned this in another call, the first recipe, what I call a shape-shifting recipe, I have a series of them, but the first one is breathe, move, and be grateful. So it's breath, motion, and gratitude. And when I added gratitude in, that was the shape-shifting part of this recipe. So it's just wonderful to find it no matter what, even on those days where you don't think there's anything to be grateful for. That's even the best time. So yeah, I love gratitude. It has made me more compassionate, and I'm just enjoying life more with gratitude. Yeah.
Thank you.
What came to me now, just sitting here being with this, listening to you guys, I feel like gratitude is a balance point. Because when I sit in a place of gratitude here, that means I'm able to almost look back in life and look forward to where I am and hope that one day I would be here, which means I've also kind of taken a leap of faith forward and trusted and all this other stuff to get to where I am and to be able to sit here now and go, woo, and know that I can take that same step forward from here. So it's almost a balance of knowing I've reached to this point at this place. I know I can go forward there, but to just be able to appreciate the here and now, kind of balancing both the past and the future.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, thank you. I thought you said that I was the one that brought stirring conversation. Like, you've taken the helm today. Thank you for that. I like it.
You've inspired us. I've channeled my inner Bridget. Yes.
That's great. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'll add more. So in addition to that thought, I use gratitude at work all the time. You know, I do technology stuff, but we live right on a lot of the bleeding edge of technology. And what that really means in a different sense is that we're going to fail all the time. If you're doing stuff for the first time, if you're rushing, I know rushing is the right word, but moving urgently to meet critical demand and production and do things, it's not always going to go right the first time. So I use it in such a way that's like, you know what, we got this far. Oh, we had a mistake. Oh, well, let's just appreciate we made it this far, and we have a team now that can support us to turn this around and to get it fixed right away. And what it does is it creates a very open environment where everybody feels safe. And I think in some ways that creates for us at work kind of a sacred space where we can all come together and sort through what's going on and come up with a better plan, a solution, and to move forward.
Well, and how generous that is, really. I mean, when you think about the team dynamic, like, it's really generous that you're holding that frequency for everybody. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. One of the ways, I'll just share this, one of the ways that I have developed a gratitude practice, you know, it is external, but I have an internal gratitude practice too. Because as a few of the callers had shared today, the relationship between self and self was one that was highly overlooked in my life. And when I was really struggling with panic disorder, I lost all faith and trust in my body, even though it was my body that was saving me. My body was such a great friend that she was saying, you have to make a lot of changes right now. You can't persist like this. You're not going to make it. But it took a long time to get to that point. So every day I look at different parts of myself that I'm really, really grateful for. So I have that practice internally, and then I also have an external practice, but it is a daily practice where I at least offer three things, three different forms of gratitude internally and externally. So I just want to share that with you guys. Would anyone else like to go? No? Okay. Well, we're right on time. It's 6:02. And the little trick-or-treaters are getting ready to come to our house. So I'll wrap it up here. But I just wanted to read this closing on page 100. Somebody isn't muted here. I'm just going to mute you. Okay. So on page 100, let's see. You will
Sorry,
be like,
trick or treaters.
it's okay. We have them at our house too. You will be like a tree whose roots are firmly planted deep inside the nourishing soil as your branches and leaves undulate and quiver in the wind. From this vantage point, your body will become a finely tuned weather vane, aware of subtle, life-altering events. So next week we are reading chapter 12, pages 101 to 105, and meeting again here on Zoom at 5 o'clock next Thursday. And I just want to take a moment for all of us to be with our imagination, looking at one another in our sacred circle, giving thanks to the cardinal winds for being with us today, thanking each one of you for attending the call. Thanks to everyone who will join later. Thank you to Renee for sharing this beautiful work with all of us. And thanking all of the elementals and our ancestors on this very sacred day. And as we slowly begin to disband, taking with us what is meant for us and leaving behind what can be transmuted in the water, I wish you all a very happy rest of your week and weekend. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
See you next time.
You betcha.